Okay, so we're back. Well, I say back, I didn't go anywhere, but obviously the video will have just started. Anywho, we're back. We've just planned how we're going to try and win the game. And if armies continue to knock 7 bells out of each other, we could just clean up. And that is, to be honest, looking like the most enticing way of going about this. The only thing that will be difficult is that I'm going to end up with a war on many fronts, potentially. Depends who I attack. There's no need for me to attack Greece anymore. There's no need. But I do need to attack Darius. And I'm probably going to have to attack the other 3 down there as well. It depends. Because, like I said in the last video, it doesn't matter whether I own everybody's capital or not. So long as I'm the last person with my own capital, I win the game. So even if Darius owned everybody else's capital except my own, and then I took his out, I'd win. But unfortunately, Moscow is right at the opposite side of the map. So capturing that will be a pain. I think that's Montezuma's genuine capital that he starts the game with. I can't quite remember, so let me check. Yep, that is actual Montezuma's capital. There we go. So that's not an issue. Well, for him. Somebody would have to take that out. One thing great is that Moscow and Tenochtitlan, that's definitely not how you pronounce that, are close together, so that makes it a bit easier. As for down here, I would have to take Persepolis. And that will probably be the toughest city of the lot. But probably the most rewarding, because I bet he's got all sorts of wonders in there. I can actually check, because I have a schmoozing spy. In that city, he has a whole host of wonders. Look at that. That is incredible. There's Alhambra, Borobudur, the Circus Maximus, East India Company, Grand Temple, the Great Mosque of Diane, the Great Wall, Hanging Gardens, the Hermitage, the Medjugorje Castle and Ironworks, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Mausoleum of Halicarnassus, National College, National Epic, Oxford University, Stonehenge, the Temple of Artemis, and the Terracotta Army. Whew! So obviously taking all of that out would be delicious. Only thing is, though, when it comes to Darius, is that he is probably my biggest and most useful trading partner. I don't think Boudica would be a big issue, though. She's definitely the person that I'll try and take out last in this game, because not only is she... I think I recall seeing she was horribly that was the wrong button. Horribly technologically obsolete. Yeah, she's last by a reasonable margin. So not only is she last on tech, she also only has... Well, she has 2 cities. I thought she was going for the 1 city challenge at the start of the game, but it turns out she had 2. She only has the 2 cities. She's not very well defended. That will be very easy to take out. The key is to not do what I did in the last game by accident and accidentally give freedom to somebody else's capital and then have to take it out again about 10 turns later because I needed it to win the game. That was a little bit embarrassing. It's kind of funny how absolutely no action on this little island has happened at all. I don't think I've seen a single military unit pass around here, really. That being said, I think I just saw one then. Oh, it's one of my own, on auto explore, presumably. I just had an auto... oh good, it built a public school, exactly what I wanted. I believe I have more than enough museums right now. I'll still keep building them because they are important, because I'm obviously churning out artifacts. But yeah, we're in pretty good condition. We definitely want an Iroquois artifact. What is it? It's beads, so it's ancient era. I believe I have an ancient era artifact somewhere. Yes, it's that one. That way that gets a double theming bonus. Now they do not get any theming bonus, but I don't have any other artifacts, so I don't need to worry about that. It requires quite a bit of micromanagement getting your maximum amount of tourism out, which I appreciate does not make the most interesting of videos. No, I'm not going to do that. Reason being is I don't want anyone to attack me, I want to attack them. And I don't want to befriend her because she has enemies. Everybody on this game has enemies. I think possibly with the exception of me, really. Because I do, as much as I do have an enemy, it's the Greeks, and they're not going to attack me. Presumably, they're not quite that thick, right? Famous last words, I suspect. Yeah, I don't think they're going to. Anyway, I'm going to get a sip of my drink. What I was actually going to talk about is future plans for LPs. I'll talk about that in just a minute. I have a few options, really. I've talked about for a long time doing like a Civ 4 LP. Sorry, squeaky voice, LP. Which is definitely an option. I might be able to do sort of a co-op LP with my wife on Banish. That could be an option. Let's get a social policy. Have we got ideology yet? No. Okay. Oops, crap. So I don't have to worry about that. Oh, both of those are good. Yeah, we'll definitely get this though, because this will put us straight into the Golden Age. Boom. Lovely. I actually have quite a lot of money. I've really been hoarding money, haven't I? Which is convenient because I can buy military units. But yes, anyway, I've been talking about future LP and ideas. It really depends, because as you've seen towards the end, towards this part of the LP, my video production's really slowed down. And I will be completely honest with you guys, it's not as fun as it used to be, because, like I said, nobody really interacts on YouTube anymore, and it's kind of sad. And I'm busier in life, so I don't really have much time to do things either. What have we got when it comes to military thus far? We have pikes, we have one chip, we have mostly muskets and crossbows and a couple of cannons. We need more cannons for sure. So we're going to buy some cannons. And that means I can move this crossbow. Crossbows will become obsolete very soon. Where did presumably I put most of my army up by Greece, which is the correct thing to do right now. Because if anybody is going to attack me, it will be them. But yes, back to what I was saying. When it comes to LPs, there's always the option of Civ. Somebody asked me a while ago about Alpha Centauri, which is a very fun game, but I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, I am really bad at it. Like, really, really poor at Alpha Centauri. And I can't get my head around why. I'm reasonably good at the Civ series, generally speaking. Not like world beating, but reasonable. Yeah, Alpha Centauri, I'm pants. Absolutely terrible. Don't know. It's very weird. I was actually thinking about doing Mu 2, as it happened, which is not the Poker 1 Mu 2. Mu stands for Master of Orion. It was possibly, I would argue, in the 90s, the biggest competitor to Sid Meier's Civilization series. A bit more basic than Civ. But on the flip side, it was quite interesting because it has a lot of the charm of Alpha Centauri in terms of coming up against aliens. And, you know, having make-believe technologies, which I think are pretty cool, because it means you're not limited to what you already know. You have to try and think a bit more. But it runs interestingly. It's a game that requires DOSBox. And any gamer of a certain age will tell you that games that run on DOSBox tend to not run very well. Now luckily we're now in a situation in 2013, 2014 where good old games, GOG, does its own codecs for old games. So that old games that you never thought would work again work surprisingly well. Which does alleviate some of the problems, but not necessarily all of them. Because even when I'm not recording, there are, for example, big sound issues in Mu 2. And I don't want to have to either turn the sound off completely, because then it'll just be listening to me, and that's pretty dull, I would imagine. Or alternatively, with that not being the case, having the sound on and having it spaz out, and me having to turn the game off, turn it back on, turn the recording off, turn it back on. It could be a pain in the bum, so I'll have to ponder that one. Not a lot else has struck out at me as being a game I really want to do. I was pondering, okay, this is another topic I can talk about. There's been so much going on in the news. But something else I was going to talk about is the Dungeon Keeper fiasco. Now, I don't actually at this point in time own a mobile phone or a cell phone, based on where you live, which one is called. I don't own one. So this didn't really affect me directly. But there is an app for... I know it's on the Google Play Store. It might be elsewhere. But there was a free-to-play game made by EA with a Dungeon Keeper theme, where you would have to wait up to 24 hours to dig one block unless you paid for it. Now, as a person that absolutely adored Dungeon Keeper series, I'm actually in the minority where I think the second one was better than the first one, but that's a different issue. When it comes to Dungeon Keeper, there was a very simple formula. You can dig dungeons quickly, and actions are done quickly. It was an RTS, in case you guys weren't aware, and it was absolutely incredible amounts of fun, because it's very often the case that you have to be the good guy in a game. And that the Dungeon Keeper franchise has never even pretended that you've had good intentions. There's not a whole lot of storyline. Oh my god, that's a lot of coal. The storyline is basically that you are a bad guy. You're a bad guy looking after a dungeon full of bad people, and you want to absolutely, pardon my French in advance, to royally fuck up some good people. That's about it. Kill all the kings, queens, princes. That's about it. That was about as much as the storyline had. And you'd beat up a few of the bad people en route if they were weaker than you. That was about it. And then EA made this free-to-play game, which I'm going to discuss in a minute because I want to talk about this game, what I'm all about. Industrialization is a very important tech because you see coal and you can build factories. If you have 3 factories... Oh, that's convenient. There's coal on the Science Academy. Great people improvements do also connect strategic resources. So here there's 7 coal. It's already connected because there's an academy there. So that's kind of helpful. Where else is coal? There's coal there, which I will have to set up because a lumber mill does not work coal. You need a mine for coal. So that's that one. There's coal there that has not had anything on it. That's fine. There's 3 more of it there. There's 7 coal here, which again hasn't got anything worked on it, so we don't have to worry about that right now. And we have 7 coal here that's already on a desert hill mine, which is perfect because like you get the 7 already because that's what a coal needs a mine to be workable. So there's already a mine there, thus it's already workable. Hence we already have 14 coal, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Now choosing text, there's no point going for metallurgy straight away, really, because the wonder's already gone. I don't really want military science because the Brandenburg Gate's okay, but it's not setting the world on fire. The only thing that's really good for it is the Great Scientist points. But I probably won't get there first because I'd have to research metallurgy. Fertilizer's a good choice. but what I am actually thinking is trying to rush to radio. Because if we're going to win culturally as a backup plan, that's the most sensible way to go about it. Other alternative is to try and go for dynamite, which means I have to go for fertilizer first. I actually think that's what I'm going to do, as it happens. I think that's the best thing to do. But what is also an important thing to do is that I have quite a reasonable, not a huge amount, but I've left some money so that I can buy factories. Now, what I want to do is actually, I think it's an economic overview. Yes, it is. I can tell, because I can order it, which cities I own that have the lowest amount of production. And I'm going to buy factories in some of the places with lower, not the lowest, because they'll be a waste of money, but in the lower places, I am going to buy some factories. You can buy at least one factory. I think I can only afford one factory right now. But for example, at Villanova de Gaia, I am going to buy a factory if it will let me. Have I got the prerequisite for a factory? I do. Yeah, a factory in this mode is a lot of money. But if I get 3, I can start doing interesting things with my culture, which I've already explained, but I will show more later. Anyway, back to Dungeon Keeper. So I had trying to avoid sneezing there. Yes, back to Dungeon Keeper. The free-to-play app, well, doesn't really... It takes all the worst aspects of free-to-play games, so the constant need to pay money to make things speed up. It combines that with a terrible attitude where Horny, yes, that's his actual name, he's a guy that you... Basically, he is the Grim Reaper combined with an assassin combined with the devil. And you can hire him in older games to kill people for you. He gets paid in mana, by the way, not gold. But anyway, that's a different issue. He openly mocks you if you don't buy the in-game currency, which I can't remember its freaking name. But basically the game taunts you for not buying, which is an absolutely atrocious attitude for any game to have. And it makes me very angry that we accept that as an actual form of game nowadays. Needless to say, there was an outcry. There was especially an outcry because... I'm not going to confirm this for sure, but there were definitely allegations fired that EA were deleting 1-star reviews, or at the very least making people that are trying to make 1-star reviews of that game very difficult to publish, so that the review would be artificially higher than it should be. Jim Sterling of The Escapist, I think, gave it a 0.5 star. Which is basically means this isn't even a game. This is like torture being in a game case, or in the facade of a game as it comes to an online download. And it makes me kind of sad. But it was why I was thinking about doing Dungeon Keeper 2, at least as a one-off video or something like that, just to kind of have that relevancy. However, as it turns out, there's another game that I might have recording issues with. Any game that basically forces itself to be full screen can be problematic for me, because the key to Civ is that I can play it full screen, but it's very easy to not do so. So I can check, for example, right now I'm checking my Audacity, it's still running. I know that, I just checked. And I can check my frames per second in the top left corner for me without obscuring all the things I need to see. Whereas in older games, their GUI tends to be kind of a nightmare. And that reminds me, I've actually been watching Quill 18's old Dwarf Fortress videos. If you like an overly complicated game, that's the game for you. But anyway, I've been watching him play Dwarf Fortress. And that game is a classic example of old-style interfaces, where you would have shortcut keys to shortcut keys to shortcuts. Now, that's not a shortcut. It's a game where you would have to have your own master's degree to understand everything that's going on. And as interesting as it was to watch, I would never dare play it. But a lot of old PC games in particular were like that. Even non-PC games that are quite old, the original SimCity. That, at the time, was considered to have a very good GUI. If you were to play SimCity now, I think you can download it from the Wii shop. I know you can download it from the Wii shop. I don't even get it from the Wii U shop. I presume you can. But if you look at SimCity from there, the people in 2014 that are playing that will probably think to themselves, what the hell is this crap? I wouldn't blame you for that opinion either. But back then, that was like incredible levels of organisational and graphics utilisation. That sounded a bit campy, but yeah, it's quite hard to put that in a non-academic, complicated way. But it made me think about this a couple of months ago, actually, is when it came up in my head. That we are really spoiled by graphics now, and I am not the person that's going to say that graphics make a game. They do not necessarily. But when I go back to play certain old games that have, from what they thought at the time as being pretty good graphics, that now we look back and think these are hideous, it kind of takes me out of the game. I mean, if I go back to the Dungeon Keeper example, Dungeon Keeper 2, you could tell is an old game. I mean, just the way it looks. But it doesn't look hideously ugly. It's actually, for a game released, I think it's 1999 Dungeon Keeper 2, it actually looks pretty good. Yes, we'll have a Vatican artifact. If it looks very, very unpolished, like I'm thinking not original, Pokemon Colosseum. Yes, that was a GameCube game, so it's not that old. More beads. But there's a lot with it that wasn't very good. Frankly, it was very, very rough in places. Yes, I am going to continue that LP on my other channel at some point. I'm still having issues regarding capturing its footage. But, yes, graphically, just even a game that was released, I think, I can't remember when Pokemon Colosseum was released, it was probably about a decade ago-ish, maybe. But it just looks terrible. But anyway, I think I am moaning way too much about games, and I should probably put a cut in the video. So, we'll talk more next time. Obviously, be nice for the video. You can like it if you like it. Subscribe to me if you think I'm vaguely interested in my waffling. You're probably one of the only few people, but someone's going to like this waffle. Talk to you next time.